Hi everyone, welcome to this new live video. I'm Lucy Ferrer with Platinum Realty, and I'm having a real estate agent helping thousands of buyers to find their dream home. Sometimes their credit score is not good enough. Then when I send them to the lender, they don't get pre-approved. And that's what I decided to invite today Deryk Faber from Scarlett Arrow to talk a little bit about credit repair. Hi Deryk, how are you?
I'm good, Lucy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for accepting this invitation. I'm happy to have you here. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you from Kansas? How did you start in this business?
So I was born in California, and we moved to Kansas when I was 4 years old. So it's
Oh,
funny. I have a younger brother and sister, and they say they're Californians, and they were younger than me. So I laugh and say you weren't there long enough. Um, but I've been in Kansas. I grew up in Arkansas City. Went to high school outside of Salina, and graduated at Wichita State. So I've bounced around a little bit. But
mhm.
I've done when I was going through college, I worked at Coca-Cola, and then I've done some sales for Fastenal, which is an international company, and then settled into construction for 6 years. Was a project manager, and then did freight for another 4 years. And then the owner started making some decisions I didn't agree with, and I told my wife we need to do something to help bring in an extra income. So we started selling rugs on Amazon, and that e-commerce business took off in about 4 or 5 months. We were making fifty
Oh,
thousand dollars a month really fast, and
oh, wow.
so the people I bought the training from said, "Hey, you're doing really good. Will you help train others?" And so I started teaching people how to find products, how to start a business, how to negotiate for your manufacturing and get it shipped over to the United States and into Amazon. And a large part of starting a business is understanding how business credit works. And to get business credit when you're starting out, you have to have personal credit. So in 2019, I started fixing my credit, my wife's credit, and then all my clients' credit as we were working on their businesses. So um, from 2019, 2020, 2021, I helped about 600 or 700 people get their credit so they can get their business credit going. And then Amazon and Walmart and Etsy, where I was selling all my products, decided they were going to let the manufacturers be my competition. And
Oh,
so, as part of that, means that my prices came down and my
mhm.
advertising went up. So, we weren't making the money that we were anymore. And my wife was like, COVID's over now. It was the beginning of 2022. And she said, you like people and you're really good at
Mhm.
talking to people. So let's not do this online stuff anymore. Why don't you go out into the Wichita community and just start doing this credit repair business for people that live in our community instead of all over the country? So I'm not in Zoom meetings all the time. Now I'm wanting to go meet people, and I've taken it even a step further. I'm working with nonprofits and schools and speaking at high schools and colleges, just teaching
Mhm.
kids what credit is so they don't get into the same trouble that adults have, because we were never taught. So
Oh,
that's
I
just
know. That's
a long
good.
explanation of your question. So
Oh, no, no, no. That's amazing to know a little bit more about you. But imagine I have a client and they don't get pre-approved, and then I need somebody to help them to get in that credit score that will get them into a house. What I need to do when I have those clients, I give them your phone number. What is the first thing you do with them?
anytime one of my realtors gives me a number, I treat your client like they're or my clients like they're yours. So I want to make sure that I call them right away and let them know that they're important, and I want to answer all their questions, because it's already scary enough going through a process that you don't know what you're doing. So I want to make sure that they understand the whole process, and I
Mm-hmm.
want them to have a chance to ask me any questions they have so that they're getting all the answers to those questions. And then once we're done going through that first phone call, and I make sure that every question they may have is answered, I ask them if they want to proceed to the next step, which is me getting them put into my system for free. And then the last part of being in my system is a $1 trial for a credit monitoring service. And that credit
Mm-hmm.
monitoring service is for 7 days, will sync up with my system and allow me to do a full credit audit. And I'll go through all three credit reports. and I'll give
Mm-hmm.
them both files so they have all that information themselves to keep for as long as they need to. And then I'll explain what I think needs to be done, and then we can go over pricing from there. But I try my best to be free, and the most they'll ever spend with me is $1, and that doesn't even go to me until they decide that
Mm-hmm.
they're ready to use it. And then from that point, because everybody's, even if you're married, your credit is different than your spouse's credit. You may have some
Yeah.
things that are the same, but it's never the exact same. So I explain that process, and then we go through each part of their credit and how I think I can change it and things that I think they can do to help make it better. But what's different is I try to make sure that each one of my clients gets to a 700 score. And
Mm.
that's because during the home buying process, a lot of loans you can qualify for at some programs as low as 580. Most of them are about 620.
Yeah.
For sure, in the 650s, you can start to get approval. But to get those best interest rates on a home, on a
Of
car, and any
course.
major
Yeah.
purchase, you've got to have a 700. So that's what my goal is for
Mm-hmm.
each clients, to get them that high.
That's true. And they have more opportunity to different kind of type of loans that if they have a lower credit score.
Yeah.
And how long usually take once that they start working with you to improve their credit?
So the credit bureaus, the way that that works is that they get paid money for the information they provide. So when I try to take things off of your credit that are bad, I'm actually taking money out of their pocket. So they want to take as long as they can. And
Mm.
sometimes that can take 1, 2, or 3 months. The average is about 6 to 10 months to get things deleted. So to that's just to get things deleted, but I also am trying to help build credit. So I'm giving my clients different assignments to do to help build their credit. But if you're in the mid 500s, you can get to the 650s within about 6 months. Is a pretty average
Mm-hmm.
time frame. But it just depends on what kind of responses we get and how fast you're able to do the plan and steps that I give you to do.
Oh, that's awesome. And what are the most common mistakes that people do that affect their credit?
So there's a lot of things that are tied to credit that people don't even realize are paid to credit, are
Mm-hmm.
tied to credit. So like even your car insurance, the how much you pay each month is dependent upon your credit score. So because you're not taught credit, one of the first things people do is they don't want to get a credit card because they think it's bad. And you're not going
Mm-hmm.
to actually get any good credit unless you use credit. So the
True.
first mistake is not having a credit card. The second mistake is not knowing who you are. So like do self-reflection and know, if I'm going to take a credit card, I'm going to go max it out, then don't take it with you. Don't
Mm.
set yourself up to fail. Only use it for like your cell phone bill or your Netflix bill or your electricity or any of your utilities, because you're spending that money anyway every month. You can now pay for it with your credit card online. So you can use
Mm-hmm.
that to build your credit and not hurt you. So those are the main two things. And then the other things are just making late payments or forgetting about
Oh,
things.
yeah.
And we, especially as we get older, we get caught in the same habits month after month,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't use the technology around us. But you can literally program your phone on your calendar to say, remind me to pay
Uh-huh.
this bill every single month. And you don't even have to think about it. Your phone will tell you, hey, pay this bill. It's due today.
That's true. That's a good tip that people should follow. Yeah. And any other like tips, advice that you could say that people should do? Yeah, a lot of people come to me and they say, "Oh, what I should do first to create credit." And some of them they
So,
cannot get pre-approved for a credit card because they don't have any credit.
so the first thing that I want people to realize is there's an old saying. If you say, can you save $5 a day? Most people can say, yeah, I can figure out a way to save $5 a day. But then if you say, can you save $150 a month? All of a sudden, $150 a month, that's a big number. I don't know if I can do that.
Uh-huh.
But $5 a day for 30 days is the same thing as $150 a month. You just have to look at it differently. So the first thing I have my clients do is go through where their money's going. Print out a bank statement, look at your money and see where you're spending it, and then decide whether you need to be doing it or not. So that's the first step, is just knowing how you spend your money. And then the second step is every credit account that you have has two very important dates. One is the statement date, and the other one is the due date. Now, we're taught all the time, you just pay everything by the due date, and it's going to be fine, and that's when the bill is due, which is true. It's kind of a trick that the banks put on you, and the credit card companies put on you, is if you pay it 2 weeks earlier on the statement date, you're going to pay less interest and you're going to have a higher credit score because you're paying them sooner than it's due, and you're never going to have a late payment. So you're going to pay less interest, you're going to have a higher credit score, and you're never going to risk having a late payment if you just pay it early.
Wow, I didn't know that. So that means that to be able not to pay any interest rate, for example, if you're going to pay it off, you have to pay it off before the statement date.
So yeah, you want it to post before the statement date, and as long as it posts before that statement date, then you're setting yourself up for success. And so let's say you have a credit card with $1,000 limit, and you have $500 on that card. If you make a payment for $400 and there's only $100 left, then you're only going to pay interest on that $100 that's left, not the full balance.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good thing to know. That's awesome. And now, if somebody got those 700 score, I know that the people are doing it because they want to buy a house, and then, okay, I bought my house, and what they have to do to be able to maintain that score, because it's not just buying the house, it's about keeping that score to be able to have other benefits.
Yeah, so I love this question because there's a short answer and there's a long answer. The short answer is pay your bills on time and never miss a payment. But I think it's really easy, especially today, for every single person I've ever talked to. I know, Lucy, you know this. Is your life different today than it was before COVID? I know everybody's life is somehow different now than it was before we saw COVID. And so in thinking about that, your credit score is the last 7 years of every decision you've made. And so it's not the same person today that you were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So as each year passes and you keep making your payments on time, you're giving them a better picture of who you are as a person, who you are responsible with your finances. But that all comes down to understanding how credit works. And so it's really important to understand that there's two different scoring systems. There's a Vantage system and the FICO system. And the Vantage system is what Credit Karma uses. And so it's only 2 credit bureaus, and it has different categories that are not the same as the FICO system. So that score is free, and you can download the app, but it's not the same thing that banks are going to look at when they go to give you a home loan. They're going to look at the FICO system, which has 5 categories, and payment history and credit utilization are the top 2, and they make up 65% of your total credit score. So understanding all 5 of those categories, how they work with each other, is going to help you make better decisions. It's going to help you keep that score above 700, like you were asking. Is you have to look and understand how credit works, and then just make sure your decisions are putting you in position to be successful instead of hurting yourself.
And what is your advice? You know, people go through sometimes hardship, and they might lose their job. They might lose somebody important in their family. Is there any way that they can do any resolution or something when they have that lost income and they cannot make those payments, or the mortgage, or the credit cards? What they should do in those situations when they are going through a hardship?
So as people in general, when we're going through a hard time, our pride gets in the way, and we don't want to tell people, and because it hurts when you're going through a rough time. But especially through COVID, I had to tell several clients, if you can't afford your car payment, call your bank and say, I can't afford this payment. Can we do something? And I know Credit Union of America had a special going on during COVID where if you said, hey, I can't afford my payment, they would take 3 months worth of payments and put them at the end of your loan so that you would get 3 months break without even having, but all you had to do was ask.
Yeah,
And they didn't advertise it because they didn't want everybody doing it. But the banks are understanding because they would rather you be honest with them and say, hey, I can't do this right now, but I'm going to do it as soon as I can. And they know you're going to do it rather than you just quit paying and they have to come try to get your money or take court. That costs them money and they don't want to do that. They would much rather work with you and know that you're going to do your best.
It's true.
And the same thing with credit cards. If they give you, when you create a new account, they assign your date, the due date for you. You don't get to pick it. But if they put your due date as the 5th of every month, but you've got rent due, your electric bill, your water bill, your gas bill, your rent, or all your cell phone, all your bills are due at the beginning of the month, and you're like, I can't take one more bill, then you call them and say, listen, can we move this to the 17th of the month? Because I get paid on the 15th. I want to make sure the money's in the bank so I'm never late. And they'll be like, sure. They want you to succeed because that's how they make more money, is by you succeeding. So all you have to do when you're in a hard situation is swallow your pride, make a list of all the phone calls you have to make, and start communicating with them. Hey, this is what's going on. I want to work through this with you. What can we do to work together so that this doesn't get to a point where I can't afford it anymore and I have to stop making payments?
That's true. That's good. And for example, for what advice do you give to business owners? You know that sometimes you can have a good month, sometimes you can have a bad month. Do you recommend them just to create like an emergency fund, or what is your advice for that? So
in the way that I define wealth is how long you can go without having to work. So like if you got enough money in the bank where you don't have to work for a whole year, then your wealth is that you're 1 year out of being wealthy. And so especially for business owners, because sometimes of the year are good and sometimes of the year are bad, you've got to find out what that natural wavelength is for your business. And the months that are good, you save money back. So when the months that are bad are not hurting you. And if you're a service industry, that's a little bit easier than if you have goods and you have to worry about inventory and payroll. But yeah, you have to be smart with your money, and you have to make sure you understand your margins, and you have to understand the way that your business works so that you always have money in the bank so that you can keep your doors open. Because a lot of businesses that are young and don't know that natural wavelength of their business, they close within the first 3 years of being in business because they don't save that money. They're like, oh, it's so good right now, I can go buy this, I can do that. And they don't understand that the good times help get you through the bad times.
It's true. It's true. That's a good advice. And do you have any resources that you can share? Like if somebody wants to know how to keep their good credit or how to improve their credit, where they can go sometime to go, of course, after going with you too, you can talk to them, but is any online resources or?
My services, the initial consultation is free. I want to make sure all questions are answered and that I'm a good fit for you, so I can answer questions for people. And I like to do talks for groups. So if you've got a group of people they'd like me to come talk to, let me know. But any of the 3 major credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, go to their websites and they have a whole section on credit facts. They're required by law. The Fair Credit Reporting Act was put into law in the 1970s to protect the consumers. And I'm of the belief that too many laws is bad. Just let me have some freedoms and don't tell me what to do. But some laws are good, and this is one of the laws where you are entitled to a fair and accurate credit report. And so we use the law to get those negative things off. And understanding that that law is working for you also requires those credit bureaus to provide information to you, so that if you have questions, you should be able to get answers from their sites directly. It just like anything, be careful where you get your information. Don't just Google it and assume it's right. But if you go to those places that's their only job is to report credit, they should be giving you good answers. But again, if you're unsure of something, get a hold of me. I'm happy to answer questions.
I know. That's why it's always better if you go to a professional to help you about that, because sometimes Google is not the best answer. Here is a question from Sylvia Jimenez. She asks, if I pay the total amount due before my statement due every month, will it help me raise my credit score? That way I would avoid paying any interest.
So making your payments on time are always going to help build your credit score. But there's two dates that are very important to your credit account, and that's the statement date and the due date. If you're paying it by the due date, they've already reported that balance and charge you interest on it already. So you want to be paying it by the statement date and not the due date. That's going to give you a higher credit score and keep you from paying interest. Now, the way that credit works is it starts at the 300 level and it goes to 850 points. And so people that want to get to an 800 or an 850 at the very top, they always leave 1 to 3% of your total balance on the card and let the bank charge you interest for it, because the credit card companies do want to make money off of you. You just don't want them to make a lot of money off of you. So if you've got a $1,000 credit limit, leave $20 on there and let them charge you interest. It's going to cost you a quarter, maybe 50 cents.
Oh yeah, that's
so it's not a lot of money, but that's going to give you that extra boost in your points because you're letting the credit companies make a little bit of money off of you. Generally, when I run into people that are in the 400 or 500s, they've got some that may have $1,000 limit and they've got $950 on them. They're only making $30 a month payments and they're barely staying afloat. So we have to get that first under 30% and then under 10% and then under 5%. But I want to keep everybody between 1 and 5% utilization, because that's going to give you the most bang for your buck and give you the most credit score as you're going to go up higher and faster.
Oh, wow. But if you, it takes too long if, for example, you have 30%, and you just want to pay for the 5% so you get a better score. It takes too long to reflect that?
So if you get it done before the statement date, it'll show up on your next credit report that's updated every 30 days. So as long as you keep it between 1 and 5% utilization, you're going to see your credit score go up within 30 days on that account. But your credit score is combined so many different accounts. So part of your credit score is credit mix. And so you want to have a car payment, a loan, and some credit cards to show that you understand how to budget and make payments to all of your bills on time. So the more that you do those things, the better chances of your score going up. So you have to balance a bunch of different things. And it's really... It can be an easy answer, but without giving you the full story. I mean, we can talk about all the 5 different parts of a credit score. Like every time you apply for a credit card and you get denied, that makes your score go down. And that stays on your report for 25 months. So you have to be really careful when you apply for things.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So and the thing about that is that a credit card company, when you apply for the card, has to tell you the requirements for you to be accepted. So don't apply for a card until you look at it and know that you are qualified and you should get accepted. So don't set yourself up for failure. Always set yourself up for success by doing a little bit more homework and a little bit more research to make sure that the numbers are in your favor. because the last thing you want to do is apply for something, not get it, and it still hurts your credit.
That's really good information. Thank you, Deryk, for all the information. Let me see.
You're welcome.
I don't think we have any more questions. Sylvia said, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. I guess you answered her question. I probably gonna have here for everybody Deryk information. So if you have any more questions, you can contact him. Oh, he went in the wrong place. Okay. Oh, I send it. Yeah. Okay, I send it 2 times. Okay, looks like we don't have any more questions. So I don't know if it's anything you want to add or.
I think the biggest is we've all been there. I didn't learn to repair credit because I had a perfect credit score. I learned it because I've been divorced, and when you go through divorce, sometimes your spouse's stuff end up on your credit. I've gone through a bankruptcy years and years ago when I was young, and I didn't know that if I would have just repaired my credit, it would have been a lot cheaper for me. So I've learned the hard way. And a lot of times when you're going through bad times in your life, it's easy to beat yourself up, and it's easy to compare yourself to others. And those are 2 things you should never do. You only see the good in other people, and you don't know what they're going through, so don't compare yourself to them. And a lot of the times you think it's worse on your life than it really is, so don't beat yourself up. We've all been there. The first step is forgiving yourself and starting today to start working for a better you. And once you start working on yourself, everything else will fall into line. But you have to decide to work, and you have to put in the work, and then you will start to see change.
That's a good advice. I love it. Well, thank you, Deryk, for being here with us and for all that good information. And everybody, just call him if you have any more questions about credit repair. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lucy. Bye, everybody.
Bye.